policing the police every single day.
Hey, Shark Honey, this is Shark Honey COPWATCH, and I want to make a comment on this before I do these videos. I don't know if anybody's realized, but cops committing suicide is up. And I want to give my opinion on that. There's an opinion article that I included in here where the cop said, it's because you guys are being mean to us. That's not fair. If you just worshiped us and kissed our ass and licked our feet. I almost puked when I read that. Are you fucking kidding me? You know, maybe it's because they're realizing, holy shit, the fucking damage that they have done to this society. Our founding fathers did not fight for a police state and for everything to be illegal. No way in hell. They fought because we were being taxed. They were illegally entering our houses. They wanted our guns. It was like 4 things, and we fucking went to war with the British police and took the country from them. Wake the fuck up. What they're doing to us is not American, not constitutional. Our founding fathers would have been shooting a long time ago. So when they're committing suicide, the devil's just taking one home, baby. I'm sorry. Freedom is planted when this is happening, because all the fucking people's lives that they ruin for victimless crimes. You got to have a goddamn victim when you have a crime, and they're doing the state's a victim, the city's a victim. Are you fucking kidding me? This is policing for profit. This is un-American. The war on drugs must end. Remember when our founding fathers said, take your goddamn country back before it's too late. And this ungodly, unconstitutional military police force across the country is almost too late and out of control to take it back.
9-year-old officer died by suicide. Commissioner is raising the alarm on a mental health crisis. That's a quote in the department, because there have been 3 suicides in, I think it's been 10 days. And one 29-year-old officer died by suicide outside the precinct where he worked.
Commissioner James O'Neill said that cops spend so much of their days assisting others. But before we can help the people we serve, it's imperative that we first help ourselves. Accepting help is never a sign of weakness. In fact, it is a sign of great strength. And joining me now, CNN reporter Mark Morales. And Mark, tell us about these suicides here.
Well, this is something that investigators are trying to get to the bottom of. And like the commissioner said, he's outlining how this is a crisis at this point. And just to put these numbers in perspective, over the last 5 years, the NYPD has averaged around anywhere between 4 to 5 suicides a year. Like you said, in a 10-day span, they've had 3. So they're mobilizing now. They're getting the word out. They're putting out phone numbers, and the message is clear. If you're an NYPD officer and you're having issues, there are places for you to go, and there's help that you can seek out.
The stresses that are compounding, that are obviously building up in these officers, is it, I mean, there must be many factors. We have this story of the social media and how the cameras in Arizona captured police on the job, and they're being judged in many ways, in many different levels. Is all of that playing into this here? I'm just trying to understand what's changed that is raising these suicide rates.
It's hard for any of us to really understand what is changing these rates. You have to understand that a lot of these NYPD officers are seeing the worst of humanity in a lot of really bad situations. They're also seeing good, but it's enormous pressure. It's a very difficult job, and it's like the commissioner says, they at this point are in a mode where they're trying to help themselves and before they can help out other people, and that's the pressure of the job. The commissioner spoke about this at an event on Thursday where he talked about how NYPD officers are dealing with everyone else's problems first. And you have to figure that that has to take a tremendous toll.
Eye on the news. We can't imagine what cops go through. Recent NYPD suicides should remind us to appreciate the trauma associated with police work. Raphael A. Manguel. August 14, 2019. Public Safety, New York. Since June of this year, 6 members of the NYPD have committed suicide, bringing the 2019 total to 8. This represents a sharp rise within the department, which has averaged between 4 and 5 suicides annually. The increase has many wondering how to curb a disturbing trend. I don't pretend to have the answers, but I hope that these deaths will prompt reflection on the often grim reality of being a cop. We should ask ourselves whether the critical posture that so many have taken, in New York, in particular, toward police in recent years reflects an appreciation of that reality. When asked what they imagine would be the hardest part of being a cop, many people say that they think first of the risk of encountering dangerous situations, chasing a suspect into a dark alley, being shot at, or kicking down a door, not knowing who, or what, is on the other side. But police officers experience a variety of intense, traumatic incidents that can weigh just as heavily on their emotions and psyches. For instance, imagine the horror of attending to the scene of a car accident in which young children were killed. In 2013, researchers published a study in the International Journal of Stress Management, examining the relationship between critical incidents and the mental health of police officers. It found that such episodes are associated both with alcohol use and PTSD symptoms. Critical incidents include a range of experiences that police officers, among other first responders, might encounter, including badly beaten child, decaying corpse, making a death notification, and personal harm or injury. According to a study published by the Ruderman Family Foundation, one survey of 193 police officers from small and mid-size police departments found that the average number of events witnessed by officers was 188 throughout their careers. Another study found that approximately 80% of police officer participants reported seeing dead bodies and severely assaulted victims in the past year, while 63% had seen abused children. More than 64% reported seeing victims of a serious traffic accident. Almost 40% had seen someone die in front of them in the previous year. Do the public and media appreciate the reality of police work? Police don't seem to think so. According to a 2016 Pew survey of American cops, only 13% believe that the public understands the risks and challenges that law enforcement officers face on the job. More than 75% of officers believe that the media treats police unfairly. Instances of police misconduct exist, of course, and they justifiably lead to public scrutiny and condemnation, but we should resist the tendency to allow those events to shape how we view police more broadly. We've seen how people treat police with disdain. Sometimes it's epithets hurled from a crowd, sometimes it's buckets of water poured over the head of an officer walking away, dejected. Or it can come in the form of an anti-police diatribe launched by a talking head on national television. Many in the criminal justice reform movement call for cops and prosecutors to do more to take account of the trauma experienced by criminal suspects. Perhaps it's time for New Yorkers who reap the benefits of a once unfathomable crime decline to do the same for our cops. Raphael A. Manguel is a contributing editor of City Journal and a fellow and deputy director of legal policy at the Manhattan Institute.
This year. Tonight, the mayor of a New York City police officer has taken his own life. The off-duty sergeant was found dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound this afternoon at his home in the New Dorp section of Staten Island. There have now been 5 NYPD suicides so far this summer and 7 total this year. Tonight, the mayor and police commissioner implored officers to ask for help if they are in crisis. For information on how to get help and the numbers to call, log on to our website, cbsnewyork.com.
It's considered the worst and happening right. New York and Chicago led the country last year with at least 5 police officer suicides. However, Chicago's force is smaller, so by the numbers, it's considered the worst and happening right now here in Chicago. Across town, a family is preparing for the funeral of an officer who killed himself on New Year's Day.
Police suicides on the rise. At least 160 officers nationwide took their own lives in 2018, one more than 2017, a spike of 19 suicides from 2016. Chicago police officer Dane Smith took his own life on New Year's Day.
A warm but tough guy.
The officer's stepfather who raised him says Dane was getting help for depression, but no one saw this coming. The 36-year-old leaves behind a wife and young son.
Anger, guilt, because what could I have done better to prevent that?
Ron Rufo is a retired officer who wrote a book on police suicides. He thinks many officers internalize the worst of their job.
Mine was a little girl, baby girl, 4 years old, shot in the eye. I still picture that to this day, and it was pretty hard.
Rufo says police are often afraid to get help for fear of being labeled soft or unfit for the job. He admits bad cops need to be weeded out, but general disrespect for police hurts morale.
There are people that just don't care if an officer gets hurt or killed.
In a scathing statement, Chicago's Fraternal Order of Police, writing in part, police are so vilified in the media and political system. That is a leading cause of despair.
Here in Chicago, police officers tell us more than ever they work under extreme pressure, fear of lawsuits or being labeled racist. And officers also tell us they do hesitate to get professional treatment for fear of unfairly being labeled mentally unstable and losing their license to carry.
Joining us live in Laurelton, Queens with the sad PD mourning the loss of another one of their own. Another police officer has taken his own life tonight, just one day after a fellow officer died by suicide. News 4's Jackie Beckford joining us live in Laurelton, Queens with the sad details. Jackie?
And Stephen, the street where that officer lived, where he was found today, still blocked off tonight as a full investigation continues. But we can tell you that the deaths, the number of suicides, puts this year on track to be the worst for suicides in the NYPD in over a decade. Tweeting, they were saddened to announce another tragedy, the NYPD confirming tonight that yet another member had taken his life. Law enforcement sources telling News 4 the 56-year-old officer was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, discovered by his wife in their Laurelton, Queens home.
To hear this news is, I don't know.
So far this year, 9 NYPD officers have died by their own hand, with this being the 7th suicide in just 10 weeks and the 2nd in as many days. Tuesday, police say 7-year veteran Johnny Rios took his own life at his Yonkers home. Chief of Department Terrence Monahan addressed the crisis in the nation's largest police force on a radio show.
When we look at this, is there a contagion? This is something that psychologists and psychiatrists talk about when one happens, that there may be more. We wanted to make sure we're putting this out open, to let our cops know it's all right to come and ask for help.
But officers cite being afraid to ask for help and living with the stigma of mental illness as deterrents. Commissioner James O'Neill has been on a mission to change that.
To go for help is not a weakness, it's a strength. And there are so many different ways to get help.
I spoke to that dude like 2 days ago, like 3 days ago.
Wow.
Derek Clark stunned by the news. He knew the officer from a local health club, their young kids attending the same school.
I think he was at the parent-teachers night. So it's like, I know we were talking about the kids, man. Dad, take your kids to school day.
And we're hearing that officer had over 20 years experience. Now, we are not releasing his name while the department continues to notify family members of his death. In Laurelton, Queens, Jackie.
The 35-year-old officer was off duty in a home in Yonkers. It was 3:30 a.m. when the 7-year veteran shot himself in the head. Reports indicate the cop did leave a note and his fiancée was home at the time. This is the 8th NYPD suicide this year and the 6th since June. Chief of Department Terrence Monahan tells WNYC they are taking this seriously.
When we look at this, is there a contagion? This is something that psychologists and psychiatrists talk about when one happens, that there may be more.
Last month, Monahan and other police brass spoke publicly about the counseling and services available. Commissioner Jim O'Neill insisted seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Peter Haskell, WCBS News Radio 880.
Hey, Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch. I am using any video here with under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.